This is the first one, first manufacturer.
All right. I think we're live. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Becca Ward. I'm the Chief of Staff here at the Manufacturing and Energy Supply Chains, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all to today's webinar, Celebrating Manufacturing Month. We are excited to kick off today's session, which is focused on the pivotal role that manufacturing is playing in our economy, for our national security, and for our energy future. We've got a really exciting lineup today of speakers joining us from the Department of Energy to share their insights on the importance of some of these strategic investments and how these investments in manufacturing are impacting both businesses, communities, and the workforce across the country. If you have any questions during today's presentation, please feel free to drop those in the chat and we will address those at the end of the webinar. And I will note that if you didn't hear it in the beginning, this webinar is being recorded. So with that, I have the pleasure to turning it over to David Crane, the Department of Energy's Undersecretary for Infrastructure, to kick us off with some opening remarks. David?
Sorry, I hope you can hear me now, but I wanted to say good afternoon to everyone and thank you for joining us at Celebrate Manufacturing Month. Let me start by apologizing. We started late today because I was having computer difficulties, so I apologize. But as Becca said, I'm David Crane. I'm the Undersecretary for Infrastructure at the Department of Energy. And a key part of the mission of this department and of my portion of the department is to revitalize U.S. manufacturing, particularly as it applies to the clean energy transition. As a general matter, and I'm sure everyone who's listening on the phone and engaged in manufacturing, I just think obviously the manufacturing base of the United States, you simply can't be a great nation over time if you don't make things. And sometimes it's as simple as that. And secondly, as a lifelong energy person, having started my career in the early days when we're still recovering from the fact of the U.S. economy being dependent on Middle Eastern oil, as we move to the transition to the clean energy economy and the different technologies involved in that, many of which are manufacturers, we obviously don't want to substitute decades of dependence on Middle Eastern oil for a new dependence on foreign sources of manufacture. So this is very important. We're very glad you're here. And we're very lucky that the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the Inflation Reduction Act together put manufacturing square in the bullseye of things that we were going to do as part of this clean energy transition. You can see the numbers on the slide. They're extraordinarily impressive, and we expect that they'll have a significant impact on climate. Our projections show that that the bill and IRA implementation will get U.S. net greenhouse gas emissions down by as much as 41% below 2005 levels by 2030. So that's a big step on the way to the administration's goal of a zero carbon electricity sector by 2035 and a zero carbon economy by 2050. So we're very grateful for your involvement in bill and IRA implementation, because as we often say around here, this is all private sector led and government enabled. So if we look, obviously we're here, our host, the Manufacturing Supply Chain Office, MESC, which was set up because of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, creating a muscle that the Department of Energy did not historically have, is deploying nearly $20 billion in capital towards the domestic manufacturer and laying the groundwork for future economic growth, manufacturing job creation, and like I said, reduced strategic dependence on foreign sources of manufacture. So thank you for being here. I want to thank the businesses in particular that are in attendance today. Infinitum, Armstrong International, Group 14, Blue Whale Solar Cycle, John Cockrell, Siemens Energy, Voith Hydro, we're looking forward to everyone's remarks on this webinar and for your partnership. And so let me end by just actually congratulating all of you who've either been selected as part of one of MESC's solicitations or have gone beyond selections fully to awarded. So we look forward to the partnership with you, to seeing you be successful. Your success is our success, as we like to say. And I look forward to the remainder of the webinar. And with that, Becca, do I turn it back to you?
Yes, thank you so much, David. We really appreciate you being here. Next, we're going to hear from Julia Sicardo, who's the Director of the Manufacturing and Energy Supply Chains Office, or MESC, to give us a little bit more of an overview of both the program and some of the top-line impact that we are having in the manufacturing space. Julia, over to you.
Thank you so much, Becca, and thank you, David, for joining us. Really appreciate your leadership and support. Everyone, thank you for being here. My name is Julia Sicardo, and I have the honor of leading the Manufacturing and Energy Supply Chains Office here at the Department of Energy, and being our very first director of the Manufacturing and Energy Supply Chain space at DOE. And I want to kick off and share what is, without a doubt, my favorite chart of the moment. And this was created by our friends at Commerce, and it really helps us put together a picture that speaks for itself. Manufacturing in this country is at the highest point it has been in decades. And, there's no question we're in the middle of a real manufacturing renaissance. So what we're going to do today in honor of Manufacturing Month is spend some time clicking into the energy part of that story. That is our whole mission at the Manufacturing and Energy Supply Chains Office. Over 800 energy manufacturing facilities have been announced over the past 2 years. And today we're going to have a chance to talk about how the bipartisan infrastructure law and the Inflation Reduction Act have been really key to making that happen. We are also joined, as the Undersecretary mentioned, by leaders from some of the companies who are really at the tip of the spear in bringing energy manufacturing back to the US. And they will later on during this hour be sharing a bit more about their ambitions and their impact at real construction and manufacturing sites across the country to bring to life what the vertical climb we were seeing on the prior slide for manufacturing investment really means for America. So my office, MESC, is in charge of harnessing and boosting energy manufacturing capacity and growth in the US. As the Undersecretary mentioned, we are on track to deploy nearly $20 billion by the end of the year through the Bipartisan and Infrastructure Law and Inflation Reduction Act programs. And as David explained, these investments are really essential to improving our energy and national security. And that is really our core mission at MESC. Investing in a manner that catalyzes private sector action and really drives energy security across our clean energy supply chains with unrivaled impact. We go to the next slide. So where do we fit into the DOE ecosystem? You may or may not know that after the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and Inflation Reduction Act passed, there was a reorganization in the department. And for the first time, our Department of Energy is set up across a continuum of research and development at one end and demonstration and deployment across the other. Aside from the Loan Programs Office, which existed before, the demonstration and deployment half is very new. And I think many of you who are tuning in for this call focused on energy manufacturing will share my sentiment that it is new, but also very much needed. There is a lot of effort, a lot of project risk, a lot of action needed in this last mile of commercialization to build factories at scale, to build manufacturing capacity at scale here in this country. And our office in its function as the Manufacturing and Supply Chain Office at the department is focused on partnering with companies to catalyze investments in this space and bring down some of those risk levels to crowd in private investment in a very important part of the journey of scaling a concept from innovation all the way to commercial deployment. So if we go to the next slide, just a little bit of how we operate. So We have three pillars at MESC. We are focused on first and foremost investing in manufacturing capacity, and that is our first pillar. We also invest in workforce. Everything that we are talking about here, it is powered by people, and just as there has been a glut of a deficit of manufacturing in the past, we also need to build up our pipeline of workforce that can not only take on construction and take on the escalating construction needs we have in this country, but also take on the operations of these facilities. So we are partnering with skilling institutions. We'll share a little bit more about that. And finally, analysis is really at the core of everything that we do. We partner with our 17 national labs to really break down energy products, not only into their component parts, but going all the way upstream into their component critical minerals to understand where our vulnerabilities, where opportunities might exist across that supply chain. And that really informs all of the investment and partnership activities that we take on, and is information that we radiate at an interagency level with the National Security Council and other groups across government, but also increasingly we hope to be able to share with industry. And if we go on a little bit of a highlight of some of what this looks like. So we are developing a framework around supply chain readiness. And effectively, this is a quantitative measure of resilience of supply chains. You can imagine a particular technology product in the center, and we were able to kind of break that down and go into its primary components, secondary, and then underlying critical minerals to understand exactly where opportunities might exist, and that directs our flows of investment. We have been in partnership with the national labs working on making available for public consumption these insights across the battery space and the grid space. So more to come from our team on that in the coming months, but kind of wanted to highlight a little bit of the deep detail that goes into some of the content we will walk through subsequently. And so a very brief but important and exciting mention of our portfolio. We've built up a really exciting portfolio of manufacturing innovators across the energy space that are each committed to bringing commercial scale manufacturing to the US. So across this page, you will see representation from LDES, from lithium ion batteries, from hydro, from hydrogen. We are really covering across the technology space, and importantly, looking forward to partnering with companies not only that have always been based in the US, but also that are looking to bring manufacturing capacity to the US. If we go to the next page, wanted to share a little bit about the impact that we're having. And that impact is really, really tremendous. Through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the Inflation Reduction Act, to date, we have deployed about $10 billion that has moved forward across our manufacturing portfolio. And that covers 13 different programs across grants, tax credits, tax rebates, et cetera. And that has catalyzed 65 different manufacturing facilities that are moving forward with that funding across 29 states, and creating a huge number of jobs here, over 46,000 alone just from this program. As an example, a recent announcement in our battery materials process manufacturing and recycling program, where we've deployed about $5 billion so far. We've been able there, just in that program alone, to catalyze 39 projects across 20 states. And this is a real example of when we talk about government-enabled, private sector-led investment. Our $5 billion across that program has resulted in over $15 billion of total project investments in these facilities. And that is not counting the indirect positive economic impacts that those facilities are going to have once up online. So really exciting for us to help drive domestic manufacturing and recycling capabilities that are going to be essential to support supply chains, in this case, batteries. Another program I will briefly highlight is our domestic manufacturing automotive conversion program, where we've deployed about $2 billion to support upgrades and retrofits to 9 manufacturing facilities that are at risk of closure to support them as they plan to transition to manufacture EV and EV-related components with a focus on high-quality jobs. That program alone is going to create almost 3,000 jobs and retain another 15,000 high-paying union jobs, which is a great segue to workforce. Of course, we cannot have a thriving manufacturing base without that trained and skilled workforce. We are really enthusiastic and proud to be overseeing one of DOE's longest standing programs, which is our Industrial Training and Assessment Center program. It has been around as long as DOE. And this program really allows us to partner with skilling institutions that can recruit and train the workforce needed for that booming manufacturing sector, and ensure that the U.S. is able to secure our supply chains for decades to come. And to date, we've deployed almost $100 million through these programs in partnership with skilling institutions that have resulted in over 200 projects across the U.S. And we are constantly looking for opportunities to expand our impact through that program and partner with companies in that as well. So I am so excited now to turn over to my colleague, Kelly Visconti, to share a very exciting update on the latest example of the impact that we're making that is a fresh off the presses announcement, and that is our Advanced Manufacturing and Recycling Program. This is a pool of funding that is technology agnostic, and it is focused on bringing new energy manufacturing growth to America's historic coal communities. Over to you, Kelly.
Great. Thank you so much, Julia, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited to be here and get to tell you more about this super exciting announcement. $428 million that's in federal funding across 14 different projects to either build new facilities or expand existing ones in clean energy manufacturing and recycling across energy communities here in the United States. These are communities that have been hit by coal mine or power plant closures, and this funding from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law is focused on these communities that really have been the backbone of our country for so long. This is the second round of funding out of the program, building on our current portfolio of 6 selected projects announced last year. We're really excited about this for 2 main reasons. These investments are really about boosting local economies. The projects span 12 different states and impact 15 different communities that have been themselves impacted by coal plant and mine closures. These are exactly the right folks to help lead the clean energy transition. The selected projects are going to leverage over $500 million of non-federal funding from the private sector and creating over 1,900 good-paying, high-quality jobs across the portfolio. The second that is really exciting about this is the ability to secure America's energy future and fill key supply chain gaps. The programs are really going to give, the grant is going to accelerate our efforts to help modernize and strengthen our energy infrastructure across many different sectors and applications. They represent direct investments in everything from batteries and EV technology to grid modernization components like flexible power generators and scaling out the grid. So just to kind of highlight some of the key work that's going to be happening in these projects, TS Conductor and MEDOX are going to be boosting domestic production of conductors and superconductors that we need for a reliable, clean grid. Mainspring Energy will be producing their flexible power generators here in the United States. Moment Energy is going to be repurposing EV batteries to produce stationary storage for industrial and grid scale applications. We have several projects focused on cement and concrete, one of the highest emitting sectors here in the United States. Terra CO2 and urban mining are going to be producing supplementary cementitious materials that help reduce the overall emissions impact and fill key supply chain gaps in these critical materials. Furno will be building a facility using a new kiln design that's going to help reduce emissions for cement production. We have projects from Clean Fiber and Hempitecture who are going to be producing next generation lower carbon building insulation materials. RG Resources, doing business as Power Panel, will be manufacturing high-efficiency solar thermal systems, helping again the building sector. And we'll be expanding out battery supply chains with precursor materials with our partner Sparks and innovative electrolytes from Anthro Energy. Last and certainly not least, and you'll get to hear more from them in a few minutes, teaser, Infinitum will be producing key components for their high-efficiency motors here in the US. We're making sure that American manufacturers have the tools and support they need to compete on the world stage. And I just want to kind of close with, this program was way oversubscribed. We received nearly 10 times the interest than we had the funding to support. There are so many other small businesses that are poised to help secure our nation's supply chains, create local economic opportunities, and really ensure that the United States is a world leader in the industries of the future. So super excited for these. Look forward to getting to share the outcomes and seeing these projects underway. But thanks for the chance to tell you a little bit more about our selections. And I think hand it back to Becca.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kelly. What a wonderful segue, because now in our portion of our programming, we're going to turn to the companies. We shared a lot of these top line numbers about what the overall investment is, the projects, the numbers of jobs created, but each of these investments is a real facility that has a distinct impact both in the community for the workforce and is bringing in a key product that we need for our energy supply chain to tackle some of these really hard to abate sectors that Kelly mentioned, and that really build our domestic manufacturing base. So we're going to hear, the number of programs that Julia mentioned. We're going to hear from some of the selectees and the awardees from these programs to give a little bit more flavor of what this type of investment means and what the investment they're making in their projects. So as Kelly mentioned, I'd love to welcome Rick Toole, the president and COO of Infinitum, to speak about the project. And Rick, congratulations on your recent selection, and we're excited to hear a little bit more about it. Over to you.
Great, thanks. Hi, my name is Rick Toole. I'm the president and chief operating officer of Infinitum. I thank the DOE's Office of Manufacturing and Energy Supply Chains for this partnership opportunity. Infinitum is a next-generation industrial motor system manufacturer based in Austin, Texas. So what do I mean by next generation? Over 50% of electricity goes to power electric motors, and Infinitum has developed and is mass producing the world's most efficient industrial electric motor systems. For over a century, the electric motor hasn't changed very much. And we saw a way to create a new type of electric motor system that could be built using an innovative stator technology using far less raw materials like copper and aluminum than a conventional motor, making our motor systems much more efficient, reliable, lighter, smaller, and quieter. The innovation in our motor that unlocks all of these attributes is replacing the standard copper wound iron core stator with a printed circuit board stator that uses 66% less copper and eliminates power losses that occur in a traditional iron core stator, resulting in much higher power efficiency. Our electric motor is capable of pulling billions of kilowatt hours of electricity off the grid and eliminating countless metric tons of CO2 emissions and saving users tons of money on their electric bills. While optimizing our high-power PCB, we came up with a new and innovative way to produce them in a way that uses a lot less copper than traditional high-power PCBs and can be built at half the cost. With the DOE MESC's partnership, we intend to build a one-of-a-kind manufacturing facility right here in the USA in Rockdale, Texas, to make high-power PCBs at far lower cost and with super high efficiency. Almost all high-power PCBs come from overseas, and they're expensive and complex to build. Our new PCB fabrication technology solves for all of that. The DOE MESC partnership makes this possible, and we're thrilled to have been selected as a partner. Our high-power PCBs can be used for industries other than motor systems, including aerospace and defense, electric vehicles, charging stations, renewable energy systems, and more. It's tremendously exciting. We're also energized about the positive impact this will have on the Rockdale, Texas community in terms of jobs, talent development in high tech, and helping to enable solutions to community issues like healthcare, high school dropout rates, and more. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rick. All right, so up next, we are going to turn to Group 14. This is one of the selectees under our Batteries Material and Manufacturing Processing Award grant. As Julia mentioned, we have had 2 rounds of funding so far, and we've selected 39 total projects, which are leveraging over $15 billion in total project investments. So I'm excited to welcome Rick Luby, the CEO of Group 14, to speak more of the 2 awards that Group 14 has gotten under this program. Over to you.
Thanks much, Becca. Again, I am Rick Luby. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Group 14 Technologies. Group 14 is commercializing silicon battery anode materials, driving the transition from lithium-ion batteries to silicon batteries. Silicon batteries are bringing transformational performance improvements to the battery industry, delivering up to 50% more energy and EV charge times in as little as 5 to 10 minutes. Our $300 million total funding from the DOE is, as mentioned, actually 2 separate grants under the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. The first grant for $100 million was awarded in 2022 to help support the build out of the silicon anode production modules you see here in my background. And I think I'm blocking the picture, but you can see how far along we are in that facility. First one should be online at the end of this year, so a really exciting time for Group 14. The second grant for $200 million was awarded last month to help us build out a silane production facility. Silane is a critical and limited raw material necessary for advanced silicon anodes. And so this grant will help us establish the silane supply chain here in the US for our domestic silicon battery industry. Today, 98% of lithium-ion batteries use graphite anodes, and about 70 to 80% of that graphite comes from China. Obviously, this dependency brings significant economic and political risk. Our material displaces graphite at a 5-to-1 ratio. So our initial 4,000 metric tons of production in Moses Lake will displace about 20,000 metric tons of Chinese graphite. Speaking of Moses Lake, this has been a historically economically disadvantaged community, but we've now hired over 180 new employees here, and we're paying about double the average wages for the region, so already having a significant economic impact here. To summarize, this funding support from MESC has been critical to helping accelerate the deployment of this transformational technology here in the US, and along the way is bringing huge economic benefits to our community. So thanks to DOE for the support.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rick. Really appreciate that and the impact that this is having in Moses Lake already. It's phenomenal to see. All right, next we are going to go over to Armstrong. Armstrong International is one of the selectees from the Defense Production Act program within MESC. This is for heat pump manufacturing, and this overall program from MESC, we have 12 selected projects across 15 states, creating over 1,400 jobs in total. Really exciting in aggregate from our second round of awards that this will allow an additional 155,000 residential heat pumps, 440,000 residential heat pump water heaters, 2,000 school heat pumps, and 20,000 large heat pump compressors each year. So a huge increase in manufacturing capacity under this program. And I'm excited to turn it over to Patricia Provat, the president of Armstrong International Heat Pumps, to tell us more about this project.
Yes, hello, Patricia Provat, president of Armstrong International. So Armstrong International is a 5th generation family company based in Michigan, headquartered in Michigan, and focused really on helping industrial facilities improve their thermal utilities. And as part of this mission, we help industrials with their decarbonization roadmaps. So we received a grant from MESC to expand our facility in Michigan, that's our historical facility, to produce industrial heat pumps. Heat pumps are a key component to thermal decarbonization, as facilities that produce food, pharmaceuticals, consumer brands can reduce up to 70% their emissions by recovering all the waste heat they have in their facilities. We often refer to waste heat as the elephant in the room of thermal decarbonization, and heat pumps are a key component to recover all that low-grade waste heat. So this new facility will produce up to 150 industrial heat pumps a year, These are very large industrial heat pumps. You see one in the background here. They are up to 12 feet long. So they're not the typical commercial heat pumps that most people are familiar with. The expansion will require us to train on very technical skills, such as refrigeration, brazing, electrical cabinets production, HVAC. We organize a lot of our training ourselves because it's relatively difficult to find technical talent in our area, but we do that with working with local organizations and working through apprenticeships. So we're very excited about the CO2 emissions impact we can have with these industrial heat pumps as we implement them within the US. And also very excited about bringing, adding technical skill sets, talent that are very necessary to the energy transition. And to finish, I want to personally thank DOE and MESC for this opportunity. We have been working together for several months now, and the process has just been very enjoyable and collaborative. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Patricia. I really appreciate that and sharing the impact of your project. Wonderful. We are going to go next to Blue Whale. This is another one of our selectees under the very recent selectee as of September from our Battery Manufacturing and Materials Processing Grant Awards. So I will turn it over to David Waugh, the co-founder and CSO of Blue Whale. Dave, over to you.
Thanks so much, Becca. And thanks again, to the whole team at MESC and to DOE for supporting these programs. We are a lithium-ion battery recycling company, and so meeting two really critical challenges that are associated with recycling. One, we've got a lot of batteries that are coming offline that need to be handled safely and responsibly. And two, we need a source of critical materials like cobalt, lithium, and nickel to support the US domestic battery supply chain. And so what we're doing is building out a recycling facility in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, that takes in those batteries and then production scrap from the manufacturing process and converts it into a high concentration, low impurity, high grade powder that contains cobalt, nickel, and lithium that we sell to refineries and other companies in the battery material space that then in turn provide battery grade metals to the battery production supply chain here in the US. So we were recently selected for negotiation of an award under the Battery Materials Processing and Manufacturing Program that Director Sicardo had mentioned earlier and that folks have talked about today on the call. It's a $55 million grant that will support our building out additional capacity at that Oklahoma facility from our baseline of 14,000 tons of processing capacity to 50,000 tons of processing capacity. And that's about, just to give some scale, it's enough to fuel critical materials for about 100,000 EVs on the road. So we'll be adding, with the support of this grant, 150 jobs at the Oklahoma plant and then another 180 construction jobs for the community. So we're really excited about that and really excited to be building that extra capacity with the support from the folks on this call. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And, we think about energy security a lot in this office, and you think of projects for recycling that can keep these types of materials both in the country and getting into products. So thank you very much, Dave, for that overview. We are going to turn over now to a few different recipients of the 48C tax credit program. So this is a $10 billion program that MESC is implementing in partnership with the Treasury Department. And so the companies that you'll hear for have all disclosed that they have been the recipients of this grant allocation, or this tax credit allocation, which spans energy technologies. You'll hear a little bit of that variation, but anything from grid components to critical materials to energy manufacturing technologies like glass. So I will go ahead and turn it over to Nick Kane with Solar Cycle to tell us more about your project.
Thank you so much, Becca. So I'm Nick Kane, Director of Government Affairs for Solar Cycle, and we're an advanced recycler of solar panels dedicated to creating a circular supply chain for solar. Over the past few years, We've signed agreements with over 80 of the top 120 companies in the solar industry. And our Odessa, Texas facility is on track to process about 400,000 crystalline silicon panels this year for recycling. As people on the call may know, glass is the heaviest component in a typical solar panel, and it's also critical to the performance of new solar systems. And our analysis work has shown that the highest and best use of recycled solar glass is to use it as an input to manufacture new solar glass here in the US. And so that's why we're very excited to announce our plan to develop a state-of-the-art solar glass factory in Cedartown, Georgia. And we're very thankful for support from the Department of Energy's Manufacturing and Energy Supply Chains, Office of Manufacturing and Energy Supply Chains, and from the Department of the Treasury. This state-of-the-art facility will manufacture about 5 to 6 gigawatts of solar glass per year. It'll create about 600 or over 600 high-quality jobs in Northwest Georgia. And it'll be the only glass factory in the US dedicated to producing the specialized glass needed for crystalline silicon panels. So almost all the solar glass used in the US for these kind of panels is imported. And making this key component here in the US will create a more secure supply chain, and it will substantially reduce emissions associated with glass production. We estimate that our glass is going to be 40% cleaner than competing products, and that's due to a couple of things. First of all, we're going to use post-consumer recycled glass as an input to our process. We're going to use low carbon US raw materials. And of course, our US location means we'll eliminate ocean shipping, and we can rely on clean electricity from the grid. So our use of post-consumer recycled glass makes this project distinctive. And based in part on modeling done by the National Renewable Energy Lab, we estimate that once we reach 30% post-consumer recycled cullet as an input to our process, that this is going to reduce process emissions by over 20%. And as Becca may have mentioned earlier in the call, glass is one of the hard to abate sectors. So we're excited about the potential for this approach to reduce emissions from the glass process. We're also lucky to be located near US producers of low iron sand and natural soda ash, which will also reduce the emissions and improve the environmental performance of the product. And by eliminating ocean shipping, we think we can reduce transportation emissions by another 60%. So in closing, Solar Cycle believes solar is a key tool to making our air cleaner and our electricity cheaper. And we're very thankful for the DOE support and the administration support for this facility. And we're looking forward to creating a circular solar supply chain that will benefit the US and hopefully the world. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nick. We're going to go from solar over to hydrogen. So I'd love to welcome Johannes Hansen, the CFO of John Cockrell, to talk about their hydrogen project.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. First, let me briefly introduce myself. I'm Han Janssen, and I'm the CFO for John Cockrell in North America. What is John Cockrell? John Cockrell is a mid-sized industrial company, privately owned. I'm proud to share it was founded in 1817, so it's 207 years old. I was not born at the time, I can share with you. We are in the US since 1840. Our headquarters are in Belgium. Our annual revenue is 2 billion euros, and we have 7,600 employees. We produce electrolyzers, and a hydrogen electrolyzer produces hydrogen gas by splitting water molecules in hydrogen and oxygen by using electricity. It generates green hydrogen if it is powered by renewable energy sources like solar, wind, or hydro. Clean energy independence is key for our national security, and electrolyzers are a key component for the clean energy infrastructure. Critical success factors are large domestic players who can offer also domestic service and maintenance throughout the lifetime of the product. We obviously are very, very thankful to have been awarded the 48C tax credits, and this will absolutely help us to accelerate our project. John Cockrell Hydrogen is one of the best placed OEMs for large-scale industrial projects. Outside the US, we have installed 1,300 electrolyzers since 1993, and we have installed 78 5-megawatt stacks over the past 6 years. We have 500 employees across 4 continents. Our first US gigafactory will be in Baytown in the Houston Metro in Texas. Our project will create roughly 300 jobs and produce 200 electrolyzers per year, equivalent to 1 gigawatt. An electrolyzer is the size of a rail car, so these are large units. We have de-risked our project. We acquired an existing factory, and that saves us over 2 years of construction time. We are leveraging our global supply chain and technology to build a robust made in America local supply chain. We use mature and proven technology with a technology maturity level of 8. And we use the learnings from our other gigafactories in France and in Belgium to get up to speed as fast as we can. We have strong partnerships. One partnership is with SLB Schlumberger, who has significantly invested in the energy transition. And besides that, we have a joint venture with Technip Energies to facilitate the engineering, procurement, and construction of customer projects. And that is what I had to share. Thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to the next speaker.
Thank you so much. And what a wonderful example of some of the investments in manufacturing in the United States we're seeing as part of both the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the Inflation Reduction Act. We are going to go over next to Siemens Energy, making a critical grid component. I will turn it over to Brian Raymond, the VP, Head of Government Affairs, to tell us more.
Excellent, Becca. Thank you so much. And thanks for the opportunity to share our story and to join in this celebration of Manufacturing Month. It's an honor to be here. Our partnership with you and the entire Department of Energy, we highly value. Siemens Energy is a global energy technology company with more than 13,000 employees in the United States. We manufacture products across the entire energy value chain. This includes generation, transmission, and of course, tools to decarbonize industry. With the increase in manufacturing here in the US, electrification, proliferation of AI, we are experiencing an unprecedented demand for our products. This is due in large part, as already discussed, to the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, the CHIPS and Science Act, and the Inflation Reduction Act. These customers that we're talking about, they're dependent on a resilient and reliable grid to be successful. And you can't have a resilient and reliable grid without large power transformers. Unfortunately, the current lead times for these transformers can be up to 5 years, and 80% of those large power transformers are manufactured outside of the US. Our customers can't wait that long for this at this critical time. So Siemens Energy, we recognize this challenge facing our customers, and we answered the call. In February of this year, we committed to strengthening the US supply chain and announced that we would spend $150 million to build our first large power transformer manufacturing facility in the United States. At Charlotte, North Carolina, at our Charlotte, North Carolina manufacturing campus, which you see right behind me, that's where we're going to build the facility. This investment will create 500 direct jobs at Siemens Energy, and each one of them will have an average salary of $87,000. And 65% of these newly created jobs will be accessible to individuals that lack a 4-year college education. Additionally, our apprenticeship program will give them an opportunity to receive an associate's degree and a journeyman certificate. In addition to those jobs, we'll create 285 construction jobs and more than 1,400 supply chain jobs across North Carolina and the entire United States. This significant investment in the United States and the creation of these new clean energy jobs would not have happened without the allocation of the Qualifying Advanced Energy Project Credit, also known as the 48C tax credit that we were awarded. So we're very excited about this project and the positive impact it'll have on the grid, our customers, and our energy security. So thanks again to DOE for your partnership and support of this effort.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Brian. All right, we've had solar, we've had hydrogen, we've had grid components. We're going to turn it over to hydropower, and I will turn it over to Carl Atkinson, the Vice President of Sales at VOTH, to tell us more about their project in York, Pennsylvania.
Hi, everybody. I'm Carl Atkinson, Vice President of Sales at VOTH Hydro here in York, Pennsylvania. We're responsible for building pump storage and conventional hydroelectric generating equipment, primarily for the North American market. And with the renewable energy transition, hydroelectric generation is critical for integrating a lot of different megawatts from solar and batteries and wind and other intermittents and so forth into our grid, and helping that transition really take place in a very stable way. So increasing the amount of hydro and the amount of support for hydro is critical. We are investing approximately $20 million in machinery to upgrade our York, Pennsylvania manufacturing facility to improve the production of that equipment. And we qualified for the 30% investment tax credit under 48C for about $6 million of that total investment. The first part was the installation of a large horizontal boring mill that machines large components up to 200 tons in capacity. That equipment went online in April of 2024 and has demonstrated really positive returns in terms of quality, part setup, cutting speed, and worker safety. We're moving more parts across this machine more effectively than ever. The second part of our investment, as you can see behind me, I hope from the screenshot there, is in the final stages of construction and should be online in the first quarter of 2025. This is a 12-meter vertical turning lathe used to machine large diameter equipment like the turbine runners and generator rotors in these large hydro plants around the country to within 2/100ths of a millimeter on their outside dimensions. Combined, these investments will increase our ability to manufacture and rehabilitate existing renewable hydroelectric generating equipment and support the growing need for clean, carbon-free energy. The continued emphasis on domestic manufacturing within the IRA will help us realize the benefits of this investment in our factory and in the manufacturing sector by growing our business and the number of jobs supported, as well as keeping more than 100 hardworking men and women of the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers working in our factory, continuing to master their trades and their current high-wage, community-sustaining jobs. We really appreciate this opportunity to speak here with all of you and to support MESC and the DOE in their continued efforts to support domestic manufacturing. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Carl. Thank you so much to all the companies, both for the partnership with MESC to make sure these projects come to fruition, and we see the incredible benefits that you've talked about come both into our supply chain and into the communities across the country. We really appreciate you being here and giving a little bit more color to what you're doing and the process to get there. So thank you again. I will remind folks, if you've got questions, please go ahead and put them into the chat now. But I wanted to, while folks potentially are doing that, I know that we had one question about additional rounds of funding being planned for MESC. We will have some additional selections coming out, or allocations. The second round of the 48C program that we just heard from our last four speakers closed very recently, and so we will be in merit review working closely with the IRS on that for the next up to $6 billion of awards. We also will have some additional announcements on part of that domestic auto manufacturing conversion program, which was a $50 million set aside for small and medium suppliers further upstream. That was noted earlier this fall. So we should have some announcements on states that were selected for that coming soon as well. Otherwise, we may have some additional funding opportunities. We do not, other than our ITech program, which is on a rolling basis. We will keep it up to date in our newsletter and on our website as these additional funding opportunities arise. There may be additional rounds of some of these programs that come through. We have recorded the slide, this program, which we are going to be able to post, which I see is a question on the slide deck, so you'll have access there. And then I will pause very briefly if there are any additional questions. But again, very much appreciate everyone coming to our celebration of Manufacturing Month. For us, every day is Manufacturing Day at the Office of Manufacturing and Energy Supply Chains, but Really appreciate everyone's engagement. And stay tuned. We will have this posted on our website. So appreciate everyone very much. And with that, I think we will wrap, barring any additional questions in the chat. So again, thank you all so much for coming. And thank you again to our companies and our speakers for joining us. Thank you.